Hello and welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, as the Trump versus Clinton battle enters its last month, let's now take a look at which one works better for India on the issues that matter for us, whether it's ISIS, whether it's immigration, whether it's their stand on Pakistan, China, and of course India. Joining me on the roundtable is Professor Vijayalakshmi. She's a professor at the US Studies at JNU. Siddharth Varadarajan, he's the founding editor of the Wire.in. Professor Madhav Nalapat, he's editorial director at the Sunday Guardian. And Ambassador Vivek Katju. Ambassador Katju, I'll begin with you. First of all, it's 1 month left, so let's have it on the table. Who do you think is winning? Or is there not a contest at all?
No, I think the election is over. It's Hillary who's getting the election. Now, I say this because even if one was to discount the media accounts, which clearly are somewhat partisan, I think the American media, the mainstream media, at least the liberal media, has shed its neutrality quite clearly. But despite all this, I'm clear in my mind that the poll results, opinion poll results that are coming out now, indicate that Trump is no longer acceptable. His own party is repudiating him. Now, he has a core support and that will remain. But the undecided vote is going against him.
Okay. So, Professor Nalapat, I think you're going to disagree.
Well, I have been saying that Trump is the likely next president of the United States from May of last year. That is even before he filed his nomination. So I'm going to stand by my thing. And I'd like to say the reason is very clear. Hillary Clinton is her party nominee because the highest level of the Democratic Party prevailed over the base. The base never accepted her. The top guns in the party did. Trump is there as a nominee because the base revolted against the top guys and imposed their own nominee, which is why the top guys are doing this kind of situation. Now, Hillary Clinton doesn't have a very strong support among the Democratic electorate. They would prefer some other candidate. And of course, neither does Trump in large sections of the electorate. But therefore, if some unpleasant October surprise comes, or if there is some change in the chemistry, this election can still go Trump's way.
Wow. Would you buy that line?
No, I mean, I will go along with Ambassador Katju that it's advantage Hillary Clinton. Perhaps I won't say that it's already over, but I think that we're going to see Hillary pulling further and further away unless some major disaster happens. Monu is right that we shouldn't underestimate the dynamics that were at play in the primary process, where Bernie Sanders attracted a lot of support from the Democrat rank and file and from people actually who aren't with any party but who feel this great revulsion against the American establishment for its policies over the last couple of decades. Sanders tapped into that. He didn't make the cut. Hillary gets the nomination. So there is a great deal of reluctance among Democrat supporters. The problem for Trump is that the revulsion he arouses in Democrats, many of whom, of course, are not happy that Hillary is the candidate, that revulsion is a far greater, more potent force than the negativity that Hillary herself,
so one's negativity
generates.
Overcomes the other.
So in a way, yes, one negativity overcomes the other, and I think that the fact that Trump is the Republican candidate, if there was say a McCain, I think we may be looking at a slightly different dynamic. But the fact that Hillary's opponent is Trump and that a defeat for Hillary will mean a victory for Trump means every Democrat is going to swallow their bitterness and hatred against Hillary Clinton and will just vote for her on November 8th. And that plus uncommitted voters, the way in which Trump has spoken against women and African Americans and Hispanics, all of this is going to be make it very, very uphill for him. And I think to that extent, it would be reasonable to call the election in her favor, as I said, barring some unforeseen.
Some more unforeseen.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Hillary won't win the election, Trump will lose the election. Is that?
Surprise.
You're going to say something else?
Well, it's good to be the last person speaking in a panel because you have something from everybody which you can agree with. Let me give you my take. I think Hillary has exhibited a tenacity to fight this election, because all of what has been said has been true from day one. So it's not new. But what is actually changing the September surprise, as you may call it, is the kind of behavior you're seeing from Mr. Trump. This election is characterized by, as Siddharth said, and as Professor Nalapat and Ambassador said, that there have been so many negatives, but essentially it was about the two personalities who were seen very negatively by their own party. So I would say the process, the politics, and the policies, and the people, all the 4 Ps are at play. And therefore, right now, you're seeing a post-debate, first debate, and second debate bounces and falls. The latest, though, has only convinced, I would say, people who thought gender was not the issue in this election as an issue.
Okay. And also,
I'm telling you why. It's not about Hillary being a woman.
it's about what Trump's record
It's
is.
about how you need to think about women. Politics is not only about governing people in a neutral way. It's also about respecting all shades of people and the genders. And that's what's really making a difference to the uncommitted voters in the swing states. And as I said, process and people, both if you mix, you get the swing states or the battleground states and the swing voters. They are the ones, you know the bases now. Forget the primary battles, it's over. Now the bases are going towards a particular direction, whether they like it or not, or they may
Okay, I get it. Let me just bring
yeah.
Also, Ambassador Katju, don't forget this is the age of Brexit, and somebody even say the age of Modi. You don't know where the quiet voter who's not saying exactly where he's voting. So at the end of the day, who works better for us? Let's have an academic question on this in your case. Who will be better for us?
Look, let me begin by saying that I always believed in the fact that a candidate and then an office holder can become two very different entities.
Which we have seen also.
Which we see. It happens. The pressures of office, the traditions of office have an impact to change views. It's there in all cases. So one doesn't know to what, if Trump, in the remote possibility, to my mind the impossible possibility that Trump becomes, then one really doesn't know to what extent will Trump modify. He's made all kinds of comments about, say, Syria, about Russia, about China.
About Pakistan.
About Pakistan, but one doesn't really know that once he comes in and becomes aware of the full dimensions of American involvement, American difficulties, leave alone American interests at play, that what path will he chart? He will try to become different because he has to assuage his own electorate. Hillary, on the other hand, can be a little more predictable.
Because we have a
and
history.
She has a history. She's remained Secretary of State. So we can anticipate the way Hillary would go. On Russia, she's strong. She's made comments, and one can gauge that Putin and she won't be getting on very well, as Trump and Putin perhaps
get along very well.
On China, I am a little uncertain, quite clear, despite everything, whether she'll try to modify the containment policy, examine initially whether America can find more common ground than it is. But for us, the more immediate interest is India's western neighborhood. There is a history of the traditional Democrats of trying to appease, and I'm using the word deliberately, appease Pakistan. For the last few months, we are seeing a degree of impatience in the American administration, leave alone the Congress, with Pakistani conduct, especially on terrorism. I'm not quite certain whether that will be maintained with Hillary as president.
Let me bring Professor Nalapat in. How do you see Trump towards India? You feel that he will be better for us?
Vivek has been in government all his life, and I have had the good or bad luck to be out of government all my life. So quite frankly, when you're in the private sector, you look upon quote-unquote management a bit differently from when you're house trained. Let's say, you know, you become a minister in a state, or the chief minister, and then you become a central minister, then a prime minister. You're used to the bureaucratic system coming around you, and your approach to bureaucracy will therefore be very different from someone who is coming straight from the private sector and is used to giving commands and getting those commands implemented. In the private sector, if you have a particular responsibility, those below you will have to fulfill that responsibility, or they get removed from their jobs. In the government, nothing really happens to them, and in India especially, nothing at all happens to them. So there will be a difference of approach in my view. I don't think Donald Trump is going to be house trained as quickly as many people would believe that he will be. And on this, for example, on Pakistan, my own view is that the United States has been conniving with Pakistan for too long. And in Donald Trump, we have a chance of that policy changing. In the case of Hillary Clinton, I'm sorry to say, we don't have a chance of that. Secondly, regarding Russia, Syria, etc., frankly, the Hillary Clinton-Obama policy toward Russia is a mistake. You have to take Russia along. It's a huge Eurasian power, and making an enemy out of it for sake of grabbing a bit of territory, called the Ukraine, is in my view not logical. You're losing an entire global security architecture for sake of a few people in the Ukraine, of certain ethnic communities in the Ukraine. So the reality of the situation is, so far as China is concerned, I think Hillary is going to be extremely favorable to China. Trump, with his very strong views on trade, in my view, is going to be very negative on China, because here is a man, like him or not, he says what he thinks. In the case of Mrs. Clinton, she is always reading from what her staff are telling her to read. And it's very clear from the emails, and more are possibly coming, that she's a very expertly rehearsed candidate. She says, she does exactly what she believes or her staff believes will take her to the top and get over a situation. So quite frankly, in my view, should Donald Trump come as president, we are likely to see some discontinuities in a failed policy. With Mrs. Clinton, you're going to see some band-aid on the failed policy, but a continuing failure of US policy.
Wow, that's a strong indictment. So the predictable is better for us, or the unpredictable?
I'm not sure that Donald Trump is going to be all that unpredictable, quite frankly. Let's go along with the idea that the race is still open and assume that there is some likelihood of a Trump presidency. You know, the American system, Trump is a maverick, and Trump, if he wins the presidency, will have done so by bucking the establishment, right, within the Republicans, and you could say the American establishment as a whole. But it's one thing to win an election, which ultimately is based on the preferences of 300 million plus people, and another to run a complex state like the US, where you have multiple bureaucracies, you have competing interests that need to be reconciled, well-entrenched policies that are already in place. My sense is that the degrees of freedom that he has, you have to work with Capitol Hill, right? So then your own individual charm or support, you see, runs against the power dispensation or their preferences on Capitol Hill. It runs against what the Pentagon or State Department bureaucracy thinks. So his ability to deliver on some of these maverick ideas, I think, will be rather limited. And you will see after the first 100 days, in which I presume his focus will be on the economy, and maybe a few attempts to reset relations with Russia, you will see the US system establishing itself, reasserting itself. While there is the possibility of some course correction vis-a-vis China and Russia, my view is that if there is one area where the US deep state has an amazing amount of continuity, is in its Pakistan policy. We saw Obama make all kinds of brave words in the election campaign when he first got elected. I was on a fellowship at Berkeley, and I remember him making statements about, I will not hesitate to attack Pakistan. When he did it, I suppose, in terms of the Osama bin Laden operation. But it's a far cry from taking action against a Pakistani establishment whose support for the Haqqani network or the Al-Qaeda has actually cost the lives of American servicemen, not to speak of American allies. So at the end of the day, whatever Obama may have subjectively wanted, he wanted to close down Guantanamo, couldn't do it. So my sense is that there will be continuity, and Trump will actually hurt India on if he follows through on some of his economic ideas, although he says, you know, Indians will in some way be exempt for the visas thing. But if he's going to insist on using the tax policy to penalize companies that outsource, these are all quite negative things for India. Even there, I have a feeling that corporate America will assert its interests at that stage. So I predict, you know, as far as India is concerned, a fair degree of continuity, because over the last 20 years, Republican or Democrat, no matter who the president is, everybody is invested in a stronger, better strategic and economic partnership with India. Exactly. And there's a very good reason for that. India is one of the largest, fastest growing emerging economies, located in a crucial part of the world where America needs all the friends it can have. So for that reason, I think continuity with India will carry on, but that comes with the price of continuity with Pakistan as well.
Also. So we're going to take a quick break, but after the break, I'm going to ask Professor Vijayalakshmi if when Donald Trump says, you know, he questions the fact that Pakistan has been hiding Osama bin Laden for so many years, so what kind of an ally is that? So can he actually stand by statements such as this if he gets elected? But after a quick break. Welcome back to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. We are here debating the possibilities of either a Trump or a Hillary Clinton presidency and what impact will that have for us in India. Professor Vijayalakshmi, before the break, you heard everybody discussing that. What is your assessment of the two? Which one would be better for us?
I think, you know, the first point that you need to keep is India is in a geostrategic sweet spot, somebody said. And that's very true even for American elections this time. And I go along with this idea that we've had bipartisan support for the improvement of Indo-US relations. The biggest opportunity came when George Bush and Prime Minister Singh actually began and signed the nuclear deal. And that really, I think, began the transformation between the two countries. But there have been so much of history behind that, and there's also current history being written even as we speak. Now, the question of whether Madam Clinton is actually going to follow on and so on. Remember, when she was Secretary of State, she made two very significant changes. One was a reset with Russia. What's to stop her from doing another reset with Russia? Great powers don't write their power relations in stone. I mean, if there is a need for reconfiguration and recalibration, I'm sure they'll do it. I don't think there is anything solved. So resetting is possible. So they have the lowest, at the moment, the lowest relationship, and that's not just the hacking attributed to Russia or Russia walking out of the plutonium agreement and so on and so forth, but the reality is that this reset is possible given the geostrategic circumstances and what to do about Syria.
Let me bring in Professor Katju also on this. President Clinton, will there be a continuation of Secretary Clinton, or will she, as she's saying, reset some more? Reset her own policies, rather.
No, I think a president and the secretary are qualitatively different.
Correct.
They're very different offices. And that will be exhibited by Hillary Clinton. She'll grow into her job.
Will she be very different from the former President Clinton?
It's difficult to say because you see where Bill Clinton began and where he ended. They were very different things. And let's not forget that it was during his presidency that the nuclear test took place, which I think, to my mind, is really the beginning of the reset with the transformation of Indo-US relations. Go back to that step of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, which we must credit him for, because it's only then that they started taking us seriously.
Right.
Before that, India wasn't really taken seriously. But this brings me to this point. Hillary will take India seriously. She has to. We are naturally acquiring a weight in the world where no American president can ignore us. One can take different segments of the relationship, and I think in all these it will move forward. The only thing is that with Hillary, I suspect there will be an attempt at not only viewing Pakistan and in some corner of this Indo-US relationship picture, but the thing that we'll have to guard against is trying to again re-establish that old thing, not only Pak-Af, which exists, but India-Pak app, which if you recollect was being thought of during the Obama years, beginning of the Obama years, which we scotched altogether. Because clearly she will try to get out of Afghanistan in total.
Okay, let me quickly bring in Professor Nalapat also. What about Hillary? Are the Clintons as good for India as we've been led to believe? I know you have some reservations on that.
Well, I have no idea how people have got the impression that Clintons have been good for India. I mean, Siddharth and I were working in the same newspaper in the same bureau during the time when Bill Clinton was putting almost unbearable pressure on India to completely surrender the Valley of Kashmir and to completely stop the nuclear program. So China roll cap and then eliminate. So, you know, and his pressure was relentless. Now, on trade also, the Clintons are very clear. A US embassy is a chamber of commerce of American commerce. Again, as I said, without going into who's going to win the election, the point of the matter is that the policies of the past have been completely failed policies. You need a complete reset from the policies of the past. Point one. Point two, it takes two to tango. Now, Hillary Clinton may believe that after abusing Putin left and right, Mr. Putin is going to say, yes, yes, Hillary, and shake her hand. Mr. Putin may have a mind of his own. He may be more like Trump than like Hillary. So the reality situation is so much of a mess has been made in the Middle East. So much oxygen was provided to China during the Clinton presidency. So much oxygen has been provided to Al-Qaeda, etc. during the Obama presidency, and of course George Bush, that they have to have a complete change of policy. Okay. Now, whether Trump will be strong enough to do that, I don't know. But it's very clear from his stance that he is sticking to his own stand. He's not apologizing for it, and he's not doing what handlers and experts and and spin masters say is needed to win the election.
Professor, never underrate
we are now going to have a free discussion.
Influence of the handlers.
Last word to you, your take on Hillary.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake to assume that Hillary, Trump, Bill Clinton, Obama are pro or anti-India. The fact is that they have been elected to serve their electorate. They will push to the greatest extent possible. Even a president generally judged to be pro-India, quote unquote, George W. Bush, right? Manmohan Singh said to him that the Indians love you. I'm not sure how true that is. But even he, during the nuclear deal, which we all recognize at the end of the day works well for India, but during the course of the negotiations, they tried to get India to give up the fast breeder program. They tried to get India to put virtually its entire reactors under safeguards. So, states try this. It's for India to engage in a negotiation with confidence and ensure that we are able to extract the most that we can with surrendering the least that you can get away with. I think that's really what diplomacy is all about. And I think whether Trump or Hillary Clinton comes, I'm fairly confident that the Indian system will find a way of dealing with the White House.
Are you agreeing with him in the end?
Well, I think it's a lot depends on the way in which India approaches the US rather than the identity of the White House's occupant.
Okay. I'm sorry, I know you want to speak, but I'm going to end now. We've just run out of time.
That's just so unfair.
Thank you.
That's how Hillary's been treated also.
Okay, on that note, you had the last word. Yes, so thank you for watching this show. We'll see you again same time next week.